All right, so as we mentioned, this app component looks a little messy. So in this video, we're going to do every single step to create a reusable component. All right, so here are the steps to make a reusable component. The first thing we're going to do is identify the JSX that already exists inside of our app that is all ready to be duplicated. So now if we go back over into our code editor over here, we know that this div with the class name of comment all the way down to the closing part of that tag right here is the duplicated part that we copied 2 times, right? So next thing we're going to do is provide a name for the component that we're going to generate. So we're going to eventually take that duplicated JSX and put it into a new component. And now one of the most important things in this process is giving that component a meaningful name. So in this case, I would say that the purpose of this JSX right here is to display a single comment. All right. So now I'm just going to give this thing the name of single comment. And next, I will create a new file to house the component that we're going to create. So this file is going to have the same name as the component. So that means we're going to now make a new file called single comment inside of our SRC folder. All right, you with me? So I'm going to flip back over to my code editor inside the SRC folder, and I'm going to make a new file called singlecomment.js, like so. Now I want you to take a close look at the name that I put in right here. You see what I'm seeing? Usually React components are written in uppercase or camel case. So that is a single comment for the name of this file in camel case form. So now we're going to create a new component inside that file, and we're going to move that duplicated JSX over into this new component. So let's do it right now. So inside of this file, I have to first import the React library at the very top. And after that, I'm going to make a new functional component for that single comment component. And I'm going to say const single comment. And that's going to be an arrow function. Then inside of here, I'll put a return statement like so. Then I'm going to go back over to where we have that duplicated JSX. So everything from this div class name of comment all the way down to the closing div, and I'm going to cut that and paste it inside of the single comment component. Then as you can see right here, we have an image tag whose source is referencing the image that we loaded up inside of our app. So for this reason, we have to import that file inside of our new component, just like we did in the previous section. So I'm going to say import profile1 from ./image and pick one. Okay, so we just extracted a little bit of JSX out of 2 separate components and created a new component. But we ain't done just yet. Now, the next thing that we want to do is get this component right here to show up inside of our app. So we want to render the single comment component inside of our app. So first off, we'll need to make sure that the single comment component is available inside of the index.js file. But right now, they're not connected in any way at all. So how do we do this? In order to get this single comment component to show up inside of our app component, we have to do 2 things. First off, we're going to place an export statement inside of the single comment component. And then that way, the export statement that we're going to place inside of the single comment component is going to make our component available to every other file inside of our project. Yeah? So then secondly, to get access to that component, we're going to add an import statement to the index.js file. And that's what's going to be the link between these two files, and it'll make sure that the required single comment is available inside the index.js file. So once we get that component inside of our index.js file, we can then render it inside of our app. What do you think? I mean, that's quite a technique. In fact, that technique is called component nesting. Okay, so go ahead and do it. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to do it together. So first, I'm going to export this single comment component that we just created. And I'm going to go down to the very bottom of the file, and I'll add export default single comment, like so. Now, again, this line right here is what makes this component available to the rest of our project. We're going to talk more about specific syntax that we're using here in a little bit, but for now, just stay with me. Okay, so now we're going to change over to the index.js file, and at the top, we're going to add an import statement for our single comment. So I'm going to say import single comment from, and then we're going to provide a relative path reference to the file that we're trying to import. So in this case, the file that we're trying to import is in the same directory. So to indicate that, we'll just put a // and then list out the file name, which is single comment, like so. So again, the // right there means that you've got to look in the same folder that we're currently in and attempt to find the single comment file. So now you'll notice that we did not have to put a .js or anything like that. The Webpack library that is doing this kind of importing stuff and trying all these different files together is going to automatically attempt to find files ending in JS just for you. Pretty clever. That means you don't have to put the actual file extension on there either, as it is indeed a JS file that you're trying to import. All right, so it looks good. Now, the last thing that we have to do is take this component right here that we just imported and use it inside of our app. To do that, I'm just going to clean out some of the existing JSX that's inside of here right now. And I want to leave the outside div with the class name of UI comments, but remove those two duplicate comments because we're going to replace them. Yeah? So I'm going to highlight everything from div class name comment all the way down to last div right here. And just delete it like so. So now we're just left with the one div with that class name. So now the last thing we need to do is tell our app component that it should show the single comment component. To do that, I'm just going to write single comment as though it were a JSX tag. So inside of here, I'm going to put single comment like so. Now, you might have thought that to show that component, we would use those curly braces and say something like single comment. But remember, we just spoke about JSX, and we had said that if we want to refer to JavaScript variables, we're going to use those curly braces, but component are the one exception to that rule. All right? So if we want to show one component inside of another, we're going to treat it as though it were a JSX tag instead. So whenever we're showing a component, we're going to use that JSX tag. So now let's save this file and let's go see it on our browser. Okay, so there we go. So I see one single comment, and Well, that's pretty much it. So this is how we show one comment inside of another. Now, there's no limit to the number of components that we can show inside of another. If we wanted to, we could copy this single comment here a couple of times down like so, and then save the file again. Now, look back over in the browser, and now we'll see that we have 3 components showing up on the screen. All right. So the last thing we're going to do is make sure that this new component is configurable by using the React props system. The React props system is a very important system for us to understand, so break it down a little. In fact, I'm going to do it in a whole other video because it's a system that is a topic in and of itself, so I want to spend some time on it. But before we do, I want to let you know exactly what props are, and I want you to have a look at the JSX that we just put into our single comment component. Okay? So chances are not every single comment that we want to show inside of our application is going to have an identical author, time, and content assigned to it, right? So anytime that we will try to show this single comment on the screen as a component, we're probably going to want to be able to customize it when we create that component, yeah? And that's what this entire prop system is all about. It will allow us to configure exactly how a component behaves and the content that it's going to show. So when we come back for the next section, we're going to talk exclusively about how we use that prop system. So let's take a quick break here, and I'll see you on the other side.